Okay, so returning from those Canley duels, both fought out. Let's see what the main effect of those was. A couple of main leaders killed. Stilgar, important. Duncan, Idaho, less important. Not main leaders, not the key leader. That would end the game. And the Bene Gesserit took their shot at that. Piles of money go to everyone. Everybody supported the correct faction in terms of winning, so everybody gained some money. This is a bad thing for the Atreides-Fremen alliance, because one of their big advantages was the Fremen had a pile of money and only the guild had a pile. Now everybody's got the money to support their military endeavors. That means that there's a decent chance that the Atreides-Fremen may lose one of their four sites. Of course, one of them could launch an attack on Tuix and make things even more open for attack here. The Bene Gesserit are already in a position of coexistence at Tuix, so they can't get involved in that. So their forces wouldn't be able to play into that. That would be just against the Empire, or Emperor. Let's take a look at the rest of the spice blow. Oh, another worm. Well, this worm can be sent by the Fremen. Now, they could go send it to eat some of those Atreides units. I don't believe it can go to the Polar Sink, and I don't think it could go to one of these locations. I have to look very quickly to see how it works, but I don't think that they can use it for anything advantageous. Okay, probably wrong I was on that. Let's see what we've got. The way the rules are stated, over on the Fremen box, and again, you have to interpret these things like with a lot of these older games, it's usually not all hammered down completely. If a worm appears in a territory where you have tokens, they are not devoured, but immediately upon conclusion of the nexus may move to any one territory on the board subject to storm and occupancy rules. Sounds like I could send them to the sink or one of the cities. The cities make more sense. Now, under the special rules for the Fremen in the advanced game, during Spice Blow, any additional worms which appear after the first one can be placed by you in any territory you wish. They cannot devour tokens in a desert, if not in a desert territory. This isn't movement. I believe I can do this legitimately. Grab all these tokens. I gotta leave one behind to hold Siege Tabar. That's immune to anything. And into Tuix Siege I go. And that's gonna make the Fremen Atreides alliance more powerful. I'm also within range that I can move these from Carthag. From being the wrong word. I can move the units from the Polar Sink into Tuix due to owning Carthag and the Ornithopters. I don't know why I stopped the video there, but I drew in more cards for Sihaya Ridge and Broken Land. We got some more spice showing up. That's probably unimportant at this point. Everybody's goal is winning or stopping the others from winning. And it looks like the Atreides-Fremen alliance has a real advantage now, looking at holding 4 already, plus a 5th one under attack. This is often what you have to do, challenging all of them in order to get your victory with an alliance, because you need 4. So it's really kind of tough. All right, well, that puts us to the bidding round. The cards are going to come out. I'll talk about how that all works out after it happens. Well, during the card play round, oh shit, I forgot the Cone of Silence again. Damn it. I keep forgetting that. Another one of these additional expansion cards, the Residual Poison came out. The Harkonnens played that against the Fremen and said, give me $4. Now, the way that card is supposed to be played, it's supposed to be played face down. I've got Residual Poison. You can play a worthless card in its place if... And this is just so complicated in terms of how to actually interpret it, because you wouldn't even know you have this unless you've looked at the rules for it. So we usually just played it face up and said the hell with it. So this is placed there, and it says, you pay me $4 a turn or I'm killing one of your leaders, and I get the cash for that leader. Now, the Fremen obviously will pay in this case, and I'm just going to play it that way because it's too hard to keep track of the possibilities of this. Like many of these optional cards, I don't know how well they were really play tested, but they're kind of like, it's kind of like Cosmic Encounter, where there's just so much fitting together and everything with these expansions. I think there was an attempt to add that kind of complexity to Dune. The problem is Dune is a much more solid game when it starts without the expansions than CE was. If you've ever played the original CE, and I've got it kicking around somewhere up here, there it is. I got the super big box meant to hold all the expansions and never managed to get an expansion. I also have the Avalon Hill edition, which is a pile of crap. It's basically as stripped down, except it's got plastic pieces. I thought I was going to be getting something that was similar to the later Mayfair editions, or earlier Mayfair editions. Somehow Hasbro got it and put it out in that version, and nobody wanted it because it was lacking too much. Anyway, whatever. I think I remember it saying something like it was more like the original. Well, yeah, more like the original in that there's nothing there. I miss my flares. That's why I never liked the Mayfair edition. Yeah, enough battling on this. Anyway, some of the cards went quite high. I think one went for 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 bucks. The Fremen bought a card. It was just a weapon. The Atreides wanted it. They couldn't afford enough. Now, you're able to give your allies money, but the Fremen are like, look, I need to win a battle too, right? I can hold one area. If you can hold two, and the Atreides are like, well, I have that card, maybe I can, but without it, I might not be able to. Well, both sides, between them, they have to win 3 out of 4 potential battles. And we'll see what those battles are and how they line up. Some of them might be quite easy. All right. So now we're in the actual play of the game, and the Atreides have to go first. And they're going to be fortifying their locations. They can't do much about the Fremen position. Oh, I'm worried about this. I don't remember. So the guild will perhaps be going last to pick the attack that they want to make. Giving them a move after the Fremen, basically. Okay, the guild chose to go last, but the Bene Gesserit followed some of their suggestions in landing at Habana Ridge Flat. Basically, the Atreides didn't have much to do. They dropped some more troops down into Habana Ridge and moved their Red Chasm troops as far as they could, which was to there. That left Arrakeen weaker than they would have liked, but everything was empty at that point. Whatever. Arrakeen's the more valuable, so they probably should have defended it harder. Then we go to the Harkonnen, who landed a huge force over in Carthage. Now, they pay half price to the guild. The question is, where does that money go? I sent it to the guild, but I'm beginning to think that's incorrect. You need only pay half the fee when shipping your token. This costs for shipping to your reserves 1 spice every 2 but here, allies may use the same types of shipment at the same cost as you. It doesn't specify whether or not this violates the guild advantage of being able to give money. The Emperor is able to give you money, anybody's able to give you money, in order to buy treachery cards. In fact, allies are able to give money to one another for almost everything. So the question is, well, if you don't charge the player, you're kind of cheating, and I think that's the intention. So I'm going to take that money from the guild. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I paid them from the Harkonnen. They have just tons of money, and it just doesn't feel right. This is one of those things that I'm never sure what the rules should be. And likewise, the Bene Gesserit dropped troops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 4 more that the guild took from the Bene Gesserit. I'm getting rid of that money because I think it's unfair to allow the guild to take the money, because they could have just given it and paid for it and land you for free. Now, the Emperor has that ability to buy cards for other people for free, essentially. He has to have the cash on hand. And boy, does he have a pile after this turn. He's the one unaligned player. If he could have made a serious move on getting 2 territories more, he'd be in good shape. But he can't do that. What he did forget to do, though, was land his troops, which he was going to do. And we'll get his down there. I'll take care of that in a moment. I forgot about him, basically, because he's not one of the alliances. But he has troops on the board that he has to defend to face against the Fremen. Now, remember, his starred troops don't count against the Fremen. except as normal troops. So he may not want to commit them. He certainly doesn't want to lose them in battle. Over to the Fremen. They were able to move 2 spaces, bonk bonk, into Carthage to help defend that. And I think that's all they had. They have no additional units. Atreides, we already covered. We go back to the Guild. The Guild land a large force over here at Arrakeen. Take one of the key locations if they can. I don't think this game is going to end on this turn, but we'll see. But one thing we're sure to see is that there are going to be some combats. And who has to choose first? Well, the Atreides do. They only have 2 combats, one against the Bene Gesserit and one against the Guild. This is tough, because the Bene Gesserit get to use their power in this. The Harkonnen get to use their power in this. The Guild has no battle power. It's a tough thing to face. Of course, the Atreides get to use their power, and if they lose enough units, 7 units, they get the Kwisatz Haderach, which gives them additional benefit in terms of resisting. It gives them +2 strength, but the big thing it gives them is resisting treachery. Alright, let's start this. Well, I got those Imperials down. He brought everything except the rest of the Sardaukar down. He wants to keep them as kind of a strike force. But then I realized the Guild forgot something they could do, which is they get 1 free token and 2 more that they can buy. So that costs them 2, and then 3 to land these so that they can bring some additional units down here to Arrakeen. I'll finish up my battle plans as I'm doing that, but I wanted to just indicate what I was doing to back up some of the stuff that I screwed up. Basically, this is, when you're actually playing it, you wouldn't probably make these mistakes. But playing it solo, I often make a lot of mistakes. Okay, so now at the beginning of the battle, some things happen. The Atreides get their ability to look at an element of the battle plan, and the Bene Gesserit get an ability to use their voice. The Bene Gesserit are going to say, do not use a shield to the Atreides. These are actually fairly limited as to what you could say. You couldn't say, do not use a defense, right? The Atreides get to look at one element of the battle plan. They want to know what defense the Guild is using. The Guild is using no defense, so they don't have to show one. Neither player had any worthless cards, so they can't throw that in. The Truth Trance probably won't come in too handy here. With the Bene Gesserit on your side, that can be a really powerful combination, but they're okay with this. The Guild knows it has enough troops landed in Arrakeen that it can win this battle. So, as long as they can kill whoever the leader is, they will win. And that's what they did. They dialed a 7, which is... They actually probably should dial a 7.5. Just in case... It gives up an extra unit. But in case the Atreides throw all their units into the battle, then at least the Guild forces are still going to be there. They will stop the game from... They will stop the Atreides from holding Arrakeen if they dialed only a 7, but they're going to throw an extra unit in just to make sure. So the way that works is they dialed 7. That means they're going to lose 7 units. They had to commit 7 spice to that. Now they committed an extra half point. That puts them above what the Atreides can possibly do. They put a weapon in place, no defense, and they must put a leader. For the Atreides, they went all out -1, basically hoping that the Guild, I don't know, somehow screws up or something. But that's dialing a 6, putting 6 money in. They put a weapon in to kill the leader, and they know that there's no defense there. And they put a leader who they know can't be, who isn't susceptible to treachery. The Bene Gesserit have Imperial conditioning. They're not going to play that to support Master Butte. They don't think he's important enough to prevent from being killed. So what happens? When these are then revealed, these were done hidden by the players. They're revealed at this point, and the first thing that's resolved is the weaponry. The poison weapon and projectile weapon both hit. So both Butte and you are going to be dead. They're going to go to the Tlaxlu tanks. The money spent is spent after it's verified. And the Guild won. So the guild is going to get $4 for the 2 leaders who died. Thrown into their tray. The Atreides lose their weapon. The guild could discard their weapon if they want it, but they want to keep it. And they have to lose 8 units because they dialed 7 that they paid for and 1 other. And the Atreides force is completely destroyed. And the guild has won at Arrakeen. That doesn't guarantee that the game doesn't end, but it gets us 1 step closer. We need to win 1 more battle with the Alliance. Now the Atreides have to pick their next battle, and they must do this one, because the Bene Gesserit are obviously not not coexisting there. They announced that they went in to try to stop the game from ending. One of the problems in this game is the order was important. Well, one of the problems for the Atreides, at least. Had they fought this battle first, they would have a weapon still. They lost a battle which maybe they had no chance of winning. They should have picked this one first. And they would have had more money. As it stands, their battle plan, and they were told, hey, don't use a poison defense. Their battle plan, and they're using the worst leader they can. They're dialing as much as they can, figuring they're going to die, but they kept 1 extra. They didn't have enough money to pay for their entire force. They're committing 9 troops here, I believe. 6 of them are paid for. The other 3 are not, so they come out to 1.5. That puts me to a 7.5. They don't really care what they see in the battle plan for the Bene Gesserit. The Bene Gesserit can't really do anything, can't really lose here unless they happen to choose a traitor, because they have a weapon. I mean, I could have asked that. They dialed a 7. They think they're going to lose if the Atreides have another weapon, but they don't. And they told the Atreides, do not use a poison defense. So it's kind of random which way they wanted to do it. They used their own leader that they know. Remember, it's got a dot here to remind me that they have seen that leader and know she's safe. So the combat happens. First, the poison weapon goes off, and it kills Gurney Halleck. So $4 is gained by the Bene Gesserit. And now the battle is simply 7.5 versus the 7 that I dialed plus 5 is 12. I defeat... Oh. Hold on. I also had the Kwisatz Haderach in there. So 7.5, 9.5 versus 12. I defeat the Atreides, and all their units go to the tanks. The Kwisatz Haderach could be there because there were 7 units destroyed last battle. Spice goes away. Kwisatz Haderach lives. That's not a problem. He can only be killed by the lasgun shield reaction. Over here, the Bene Gesserit are going to keep their cards. They don't want to lose them. And they keep their leader, but they do have to get rid of 7 of their units to the tanks, which is most of them. They get their leader back. They can't use her again this turn, but they're not involved in any more battles, so that's no big deal. All right. Now we'll be going on. I'll remove 7 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She gets to keep the Habana Ridge Siege. And now we move on to the next player. The guild doesn't have any more battles. Harkonnen against Freeman. Now there's a potential bluffing aspect to fighting. For example, if the Freemen were convinced that they were going to lose this battle, they might want to dial all their troops but at half strength so that they don't pay spice. They've got tons of spice. It's not a terrible thing, but conserving resources is of some value. Instead, they went all out, trying to keep 1 unit there, though, because otherwise, what are they doing? Usually you don't dial full unless you're trying to stop someone from winning, and it's the only way you think you can do it. Over on the Harkonnen, They, again, paid a $50 just to make sure they went over. I believe if I counted right, they're going to have a 1 unit left at the end of this. Maybe more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They've got 14. Essentially, they dialed 13 units. So, yeah, they're going to have 1 left. They paid for what they can. The Bene Gesserit told the Fremen, do not play a poison defense. So they know they're going to lose their leader. They put their worst leader up there. Of course, if there's a traitor involved in this, and that's revealed, then the dialed combat, the losses, none of that happens. It's just a free win for the Harkonnen. They may not want to reveal, but they're going to be losing a lot of troops here if they don't. The Harkonnen played a low leader in the hope of avoiding treachery, and also because they don't know that they have a defense. In fact, they do not. Both Jamis and the captain are killed, and that'll give the Harkonnen $4 back. The money is spent, and the Harkonnen are a half point dialed ahead of the Fremen. Now the Fremen lose their weapon again, and this is an expensive thing, right? I mean, not only are they paying the prices for the stuff, but they're also losing a card, which in this case cost them $13 to buy. Leaders go into the tanks, and yeah, we're seeing a lot of death here. All the Fremen go in the tanks, and things are beginning to look kind of interesting. And all but one of the Harkonnen are in the tanks. Things are beginning to look very interesting from the point of view of the people who aren't really heavily involved in battles. The guild still has their force there at Arakeen. That can't be right. They dialed a big number. Shit. I'm going to have to go back. They lost a pile of troops that I didn't remove. No, indeed, that's correct. I can see they took more losses, a decent amount of losses. They just attacked a smaller pile. That gives them a supreme advantage. Now, they can't break their alliance, though, until the next Nexus. So they're still stuck in this alliance that has to take all the cities. The Bene Gesserit, who usually, in the traditional game, don't have a lot of pieces on the board, well, they still have a decent amount left to commit. So do the Harkonnen. This big alliance maybe has a shot to take all the territories the way things are kicking. We have one more battle to go against the Imperials, the Freemen. The Freemen may want to come to a deal with the Emperor and say, hey, I'm not going to dial much here. Of course, the Emperor probably won't trust that. They want to win the battle, so they will. You wouldn't really accept a statement like that. These go back to the Bene Gesserit, and we handle the last battle of the turn. For the final battle, the Fremen went as big as they could. They had no cards. The Atreides tried to at least peek at the weapon to see if we were going to lose a leader, because if we're not, we could put somebody like Chani in. But that was canceled with a Karama card by the Emperor. The Emperor dialed high, played Lasgun, and put Bashar in here. He wins either way. Bashar's really just in there because you must put a leader into the battle. That means the Shadow Mapes dies, going into the dead pile. And yes, deaths are quite common in this game. And the Imperial gets $3 for that. The Imperial won the battle, so all of these, including the Fatakin, who can only be taken back 1 per turn max, go in here. The Sardaukar were not effective. I could have canceled the Fatakin out, and therefore the no, that wouldn't have helped the Sardaukar any. But instead I lose 9 units because I spent for 8 and used an extra half to win the odd tie. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Imperials go in here. And as you can see, the tanks are filling up quite rapidly here. That's quite often the case because the game jump starts even without Spice Harvest. All right, finishing up the turn, what do we get? The Atreides have 3 guys. They don't have Carthag or Aaron Keen anymore, but they can still take all 6 of the spice. That's very helpful to them because they're low on money. And then we get 2 for the Harkonnen, 2 for the Guild, and 1 for the Emperor. And that is that.